I'm writing this from a hotel room because I can't go back to that apartment, and I need everyone to understand what happened before I completely lose my mind. My landlord cut off my heat in the middle of February after my mother's funeral, and when I found out the real reason why, when I saw what his girlfriend posted on Instagram, it revealed a betrayal so deep and so twisted that I'm still trying to process it all. My name is Alex and I'm 23 years old. I'm a graduate student studying civil engineering at State University, and up until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had my life somewhat together. I lived in a basement apartment owned by a guy named Derek Chen. Derek is 38, owns 3 rental properties, and always presented himself as this understanding, flexible landlord. When I first toured the apartment 2 years ago, he told me he understood the struggles of being a student because his younger brother had just graduated. He gave me a good rate, didn't require a co-signer, and said as long as I paid on time and didn't trash the place, we'd have no problems. For 2 years, we didn't. I paid my rent on the first of every month like clockwork. The apartment was small, a basement studio with 1 window, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom that constantly smelled like mildew no matter how much I cleaned, but it was mine, and it was affordable, and it was close to campus. Derek lived upstairs with his girlfriend Vanessa. I'd see them sometimes coming and going, hear them through the ceiling occasionally, but mostly we stayed out of each other's way. Professional. Cordial. My mother got sick in November. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She'd been having symptoms for months, but kept brushing them off as stress from her job. She was a middle school teacher, worked insane hours, always put everyone else first. By the time she finally went to the doctor, it had already spread. They gave her 6 months. She made it 3. Those 3 months were hell. I'm an only child and my dad died when I was 16, so it was just me taking care of her. I'd drive 2 hours each way to her house 3 times a week, sometimes more. I'd sit with her during chemo, hold her hair when she threw up, help her to the bathroom when she was too weak to walk on her own. My grades started slipping. I was on a full academic scholarship that required maintaining a 3.5 GPA, and by December I'd dropped to a 3.3. My advisor warned me that if I didn't pull it up by the end of spring semester, I'd lose the scholarship. $30,000 a year. Without it, I couldn't afford to continue the program. I explained the situation to Derek in early January. Mom was getting worse and I needed to take more time off. I asked if I could pay rent a week late for February because I'd had to miss work to be with her and my paycheck would be short. Family comes first, Derek said, putting his hand on my shoulder. Don't worry about it. Pay whenever you can. I understand what you're going through. My mom had breast cancer a few years ago. It's brutal. Just focus on being there for your mom. I actually cried. I was so grateful, so relieved to have one less thing to stress about. Mom died on February 3rd. It was a Saturday morning. I was holding her hand. She'd been unconscious for 2 days and the hospice nurse said it would be soon. When she took her last breath, I felt something inside me break that I don't think will ever fully heal. She was 51 years old. She should have had decades left. The funeral was the following Saturday, February 10th. Small service, just some of her teacher friends, a few neighbors, her sister who flew in from Oregon. I gave a eulogy that I barely remember delivering. After everyone left, her sister helped me start sorting through Mom's things. The house was paid off, Dad's life insurance had covered that, so at least I didn't have to worry about a mortgage. But everything else was overwhelming. Paperwork, belongings, memories in every corner. I stayed at Mom's house that night. Couldn't face going back to my empty apartment. Sunday morning, my aunt left to catch her flight, and I started the 2-hour drive back to campus. I had 3 major assignments due that week, a midterm on Thursday, and I desperately needed to get back on track with my coursework. I got back to my apartment around noon on Sunday. The second I walked in, I knew something was wrong. It was freezing. And I mean absolutely frigid. I could see my breath. I checked the thermostat. It was set to 68 like always, but the display showed the indoor temperature was 42 degrees. I went to the heating vent. No air coming through. I checked the circuit breaker. Everything looked fine. I texted Derek. Hey, the heat isn't working in my apartment. Not sure what happened, but it's freezing down here. Can you check on it? No response. I waited 2 hours. Texted again. Derek, it's really cold. I checked the breaker and thermostat, but can't figure out what's wrong. Can you come look at it? Still nothing. I called. Straight to voicemail. I bundled up in every piece of clothing I owned, wrapped myself in blankets, and tried to work on my assignments. By evening, the temperature in the apartment had dropped to 38 degrees. I could barely type because my fingers were so cold. I called Derek again. Voicemail again. Monday morning, I woke up to 35-degree temperatures inside my apartment. I'd barely slept because I was shivering so hard. I had class in an hour. I dragged myself out of my blanket cocoon, took the fastest shower of my life, because the bathroom was like an icebox, and headed upstairs to Derek's door. I knocked. No answer. Knocked again. Finally, Vanessa opened the door. She was in yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, looking annoyed. What? Hi Vanessa, sorry to bother you. The heat in my apartment isn't working and Derek hasn't responded to my texts or calls. It's been freezing since yesterday. Can he come look at it? He's not here. Oh? When will he be back? I don't know. He's busy. Okay, well, can you ask him to call me? It's really cold down there, Anne. He knows. He'll deal with it when he has time. She started to close the door. Wait, he knows. Did he get my messages? Yes. He's busy. He'll fix it later. Door closed. I stood there in the hallway, stunned. He knows and he's just not dealing with it. I went to class but couldn't concentrate. Went to the library after because my apartment was uninhabitable. Tried to work on my assignments, but my brain felt like fog. I was exhausted, grieving, overwhelmed, and now literally homeless because my apartment was too cold to live in. That night, I slept in my car. It was warmer than the apartment, barely. Tuesday morning, I went back to the library as soon as it opened. Tried calling Derek again. Still voicemail. Texted, Derek, I really need you to fix the heat. It's been 2 days and I can't stay in the apartment. This is a habitability issue. He finally responded, I'm aware. I'll get to it when I can. That was it. No explanation. No timeline. Just when I can. I called the county housing authority. They said I could file a complaint about uninhabitable conditions, but the investigation process could take weeks. They recommended I document everything, photos, temperature readings, written communication with the landlord. They also said I had the right to withhold rent, or break my lease if the landlord was violating habitability standards. Wednesday, I broke. I had that midterm on Thursday, and I'd barely studied because I'd been dealing with my mother's death, and now this housing crisis. I sat in my car at 2 a.m., trying to read my textbook by the interior light, and I just started sobbing. Everything was falling apart. My mom was gone. My scholarship was in jeopardy. I was homeless. And my landlord, who'd promised to be understanding, had just abandoned me. Thursday morning, desperate, I went back upstairs and pounded on Derek's door. Vanessa answered again, looking even more annoyed. What now? I need to speak to Derek. Right now. This is ridiculous. He doesn't want to talk to you. What? Why not? Because you are being difficult. He said he'll fix the heat when he fixes it, and you need to stop harassing him. Harassing him? Vanessa, I have no heat. It's February. The apartment is 35 degrees. This is illegal. Then move out if you don't like it. She slammed the door. I took my midterm that afternoon. Failed it. Completely bombed. I couldn't focus, couldn't think straight, just put down random answers and turned it in early because I was so cold and tired and broken that I couldn't even pretend to care anymore. Friday morning, I got an email from my scholarship coordinator. My GPA had officially dropped below the 3.5 threshold. I was being put on academic probation. I had until the end of the semester to bring it back up, or I'd lose the scholarship entirely. I sat in the library and just stared at that email for an hour. Everything I'd worked for, 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of grad school, every late night studying, every sacrifice, all of it was crumbling because I dared to grieve my mother, and my landlord had decided that wasn't convenient for him. I called my aunt. Told her everything. She was horrified. Alex, you need to get out of there. Come stay with me in Oregon until you figure this out. I can't. Classes, work, everything's here. I just need Derek to fix the heat. Then call a lawyer. What he's doing sounds illegal. I didn't have money for a lawyer. But I started looking into tenant rights. Found out that in our state, landlords are required to provide heat during winter months, and failure to do so is a serious violation. Tenants have the right to repair and deduct, meaning I could hire someone to fix it myself and deduct the cost from my rent. Or I could break the lease without penalty due to uninhabitable conditions. Saturday, 1 week after the heat had stopped working, I went back upstairs one more time. This time Derek answered. What? He looked irritated, like I was bothering him. Derek, please. It's been a week. I need heat. I can't live like this. I'm working on it. Working on what? What's broken? Can't you just call someone? It's complicated. What's complicated about it? Just tell me what's wrong and I'll. Alex, you need to calm down. You're being crazy about this. I stared at him. Crazy? Derek, I buried my mother last Saturday. I've been sleeping in my car, or the library, for a week because my apartment is uninhabitable. My scholarship is on the line because I can't study in a freezing apartment. And you're calling me crazy. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's not that cold. It's 35 degrees. Then wear more layers. Something in his face, this smug, dismissive expression, made me want to scream. Instead, I said very quietly, I'm calling a repairman myself. I'm going to deduct the cost from my rent. And if you have a problem with that, you can take it up with housing court. His expression changed. Anger now. You do that and you're breaking your lease. I'll evict you. You can't evict me for exercising my legal rights. Watch me. He shut the door. I called a heating company. They came out that afternoon. The technician went down to the basement, checked the furnace, then came back up looking confused. There's nothing wrong with your heating system. What do you mean? The furnace is fine. But someone manually shut off the gas valve to the unit that services your apartment. My stomach dropped. Someone shut it off. Manually? Yeah. See, this building has 2 furnaces, one for the upstairs unit, one for downstairs. The valve for your unit has been turned to the off position. Took me about 30 seconds to turn it back on. You should have heat within the hour. How much do I owe you? No charge for that. It's literally just flipping a switch. Button? Someone did that on purpose. Might want to figure out who and why. After he left, I sat in my apartment as warmth slowly started filtering back through the vents, and I tried to process what I'd just learned. Someone had manually turned off my heat. The only person with access to that valve was Derek. Derek had deliberately cut off my heat. For a week. In February. Right after my mother's funeral. But why? I pulled out my phone and did something I probably shouldn't have done. I looked up Vanessa on Instagram. I'd never followed her, never really paid attention to her social media, but I knew her last name from mail I'd seen. Found her profile. It was public. Scrolled through her recent posts. Lots of selfies, couple photos with Derek, brunch pictures. Then I found it. A post from Sunday, February 11th, the day my heat had been cut off. The day after my mother's funeral. The photo was Vanessa and Derek at some fancy restaurant. She was wearing a cocktail dress, he was in a suit, they were holding champagne glasses. The caption made my blood run cold. Sunday FUNDAY. Champagne glasses had to reschedule our Valentine's dinner because my amazing boyfriend needed to help his tenant with some emergency repairs last Sunday, but we finally got our special night. Nothing was going to keep us from celebrating early, not work, not tenant drama, nothing. He always finds a way to put me first. Love you, baby. Heavy black heart hashtag date night hashtag Valentine's week hashtag put me first hashtag tenant problems hashtag landlord life. I read it 3 times. 4 times. Let the words sink in. Derek had told Vanessa he needed to help me with emergency repairs the day of my mother's funeral, Sunday, February 3rd. That's why she was bitter. She thought he'd blown off their Valentine's plans for me. And in retaliation, in petty, cruel, vindictive retaliation, he'd shut off my heat the following Sunday to punish me for ruining his plans. Except he hadn't helped me with anything on February 3rd. That was the day of Mom's funeral. I wasn't even in town. There were no emergency repairs. I scrolled through more of Vanessa's posts. Found one from February 3rd, the day of the funeral. A selfie of her looking upset, caption, when your Valentine's dinner gets cancelled because tenant emergency face with rolling eyes guess I know where I rank. Hashtag frustrated hashtag rain check. And then another post from February 10th, the day after the heat was cut, karma is real smirking face hashtag that's what you get. I screenshot everything. Then I went back further in her feed. Found a post from early January, boyfriend spending hours dealing with tenant who needs to pay rent late. Babe, it's called eviction. Stop being a doormat. Hashtag landlord problems hashtag set boundaries. And one from December, tenant downstairs crying again about her mom. We all have problems. Some of us just don't make them everyone else's issue. She'd been posting about me. 4 months. Mocking my situation. Mocking my dying mother. And Derek had seen all of it, he was tagged in half these posts, had liked most of them, had commented on some with laughing emojis. The man who'd told me family comes first and put his hand on my shoulder in sympathy had been going upstairs and laughing with his girlfriend about how pathetic I was. I felt physically sick. I screenshot everything and sent it all to my aunt. Then I called a tenant rights lawyer whose number I'd found earlier. Left a voicemail explaining the situation and asking for a consultation. Sunday morning, I got a call back from the lawyer, a woman named Patricia. Alex, what your landlord did is called retaliatory conduct and it's illegal. He cut off an essential service in retaliation for you exercising your rights as a tenant. That's a serious violation. You have grounds for breaking your lease, suing for damages, and potentially getting him fined by the housing authority. I don't want to sue. I just want to finish my semester and move out. I understand. But you should know you have options. Based on what you've told me and the evidence you have, you could recover costs for the hotel stays, the impact on your academic standing, emotional distress. He cost me my scholarship. Silence on the other end. Then, tell me more about that. I explained everything. The GPA requirement. The midterm I'd failed. The academic probation. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Alex, that's quantifiable damages. That scholarship is worth $30,000 a year. If you can prove his illegal actions directly caused you to lose it, you could sue for that amount plus additional damages. But I haven't lost it yet. I'm on probation. But you're at serious risk of losing it because of his actions. That's still grounds for a claim. And the fact that he did this right after your mother's funeral, when he knew you were vulnerable, that's egregiously bad faith. What do I do? First, document everything. I'll send you an email with specific instructions. Second, file a formal complaint with the housing authority immediately. I'll help you with that. Third, send your landlord a letter. I'll draft it, notifying him that you're breaking your lease due to uninhabitable conditions and retaliatory conduct, and that you'll be moving out within 30 days. He legally cannot keep your security deposit under these circumstances. What about rent for this month? Don't pay it. You're entitled to withhold rent for the week he deprived you of heat, and given that you're breaking the lease due to his violations, you don't owe him anything more. That afternoon, Patricia sent me the letter. I printed it, put it in an envelope, and went upstairs. Derek answered the door. What now? I handed him the envelope. I'm breaking my lease. This letter explains why. You have until March 1st to return my security deposit. He opened it right there, started reading. I watched his face go from annoyed to confused to angry. You can't do this. Yes, I can. You violated state housing law by shutting off my heat in retaliation for me asking to pay rent late. I have evidence. My lawyer has evidence. And the housing authority will be investigating. You're insane. I didn't shut off your heat on purpose. The repairman said someone manually turned off the gas valve. The only person with access to that valve is you. It was an accident. Your girlfriend's Instagram posts say otherwise. His face went pale. What? Vanessa posted about it. About how you were punishing me for ruining your Valentine's plans. Except I didn't ruin anything. I wasn't even here that day. I was at my mother's funeral. You lied to her about helping me so you could get out of your dinner plans, and then you punished me for it by cutting off my heat. That's not, I didn't. You also liked and commented on her posts mocking me for grieving my dying mother. I have screenshots of everything. My lawyer has them. The housing authority will have them. And if you try to fight me on this, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of landlord you are. Vanessa appeared behind him. What's going on? I looked at her. You posted about him shutting off my heat as karma. You posted about how tenant drama ruined your Valentine's dinner. You posted about how I was making my problems everyone else's issue because I was taking care of my dying mother. Did it make you feel good? Mocking someone who was losing their mom. Her face turned red. I didn't, those posts weren't about. They are public. They are tagged with dates. You called me a tenant causing drama on the same day I buried my mother. And your boyfriend cut off my heat because you were mad at him. Derek found his voice. You can't prove any of this. I can and I will. I'm moving out. Return my deposit by March 1st or my lawyer will file in housing court. Oh, and the housing authority complaint has already been submitted. They'll be contacting you for an investigation. Have a nice day. I walked back downstairs, heart pounding, hands shaking, but feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks, powerful. I packed everything I owned that night. Called my aunt and asked if her offer to stay in Oregon was still open. She said yes immediately. Monday morning, I went to my advisor and explained everything, showed her the evidence, explained how my landlord's illegal actions had directly impacted my academic performance. She was horrified. Alex, this is an extraordinary circumstance. I am going to advocate for you with the scholarship committee. This wasn't your fault. I still failed the midterm. Because you were made homeless during a family crisis by an abusive landlord. That's documented. That's provable. I can't promise anything, but I'm going to fight for you. She did. A week later, I got called into a meeting with the scholarship committee. I brought Patricia, my lawyer. We presented everything, the timeline of Mom's death, Derek's messages, the heating company's report, Vanessa's Instagram posts, the correlation between losing heat and my academic decline. The committee voted unanimously to maintain my scholarship and give me a one-semester grace period to bring my GPA back up. They also formally reprimanded my professor, who had refused to let me retake the midterm despite documented extenuating circumstances. I moved out of Derek's apartment on February 28. He returned my security deposit without a fight, probably because Patricia had made it very clear that fighting would result in a lawsuit he'd lose. The Housing Authority investigation found him in violation of multiple health and safety codes. He was fined $5,000 and put on a watch list. But the real karma came in March. Vanessa posted a long, dramatic Instagram story about how her boyfriend had been harassed by a crazy tenant and how they were victims of false accusations. She included my name. Called me unstable. Said I'd fabricated everything because I couldn't handle being a grown-up. Bad move. I'd been planning to let it go. But she'd made it public and defamatory. Patricia filed a defamation lawsuit. During discovery, we got access to text messages between Derek and Vanessa. The texts confirmed everything. Derek had lied about where he was the day of my mom's funeral, Vanessa had been angry about it, they'd discussed teaching me a lesson about being demanding, and Derek had admitted in texts that he'd shut off my heat just for a few days to make a point. They settled out of court. I got $15,000. More importantly, the texts became part of the public court record. Other tenants in Derek's buildings saw them and started filing their own complaints. Turns out Derek had a pattern of retaliatory behavior. By May, Derek had sold all 3 of his rental properties. The stress, the legal fees, and the damage to his reputation weren't worth it. Last I heard, he and Vanessa broke up. She blamed him for ruining her reputation, and he blamed her for posting too much online. I'm finishing my degree from Oregon, taking classes remotely. My aunt has been incredible. I'm living with her rent-free until I graduate. My GPA is back up to 3.6. My scholarship is secure. I'm going to be okay. But I still think about that week sometimes. About being so cold I could see my breath in my own home. About failing that midterm because I was too exhausted and frozen to think. About Derek looking me in the eye and calling me crazy while knowing exactly what he'd done. And I think about Vanessa's Instagram posts. About how she felt entitled to mock someone's grief because it inconvenienced her. About how Sunday FUNDAY and karma is real were more important to her than basic human decency. Some people will never understand that their actions have consequences. That cruelty catches up with you. That screenshots last forever and lawyers exist for a reason. Derek and Vanessa learned that lesson the hard way. And honestly, I don't feel bad about it at all. My mom always said, do the right thing even when it's hard. I did. I documented everything, followed the legal process, and held bad people accountable. She would have been proud. And that's all that matters.